Hello, this is Kari Machiavelli here. I just wanted to make a quick rant about certain people which are present in almost any kind of activity. Okay, maybe not any kind of activity, but mostly in music and sports. When it's about music, it's the highest prevalence of these people is in metal music, as metal is the genre which I started to listen to when I was the youngest age. Like at I think age 5, I started to listen to System of a Down because my brother used to listen to it. And I know the metal scene pretty well. And so I know for a fact that the majority of these types of people are metal has the most amount of these types of people. Like it's the biggest cliche, one of the biggest cliches in the metal community. And the other area is sports, where I would say, the most prevalent sport activity where this type of where this type of person is a part of, is skating. And so metal and skating have two types in common. And I'm not talking about the emo skaters and the post-hardcore skaters, like the wannabe punks or whatever. I'm talking about the other type of commonality between metal and skating. It's about people who call out other people for being posers. And when we talk about musics, in comparison to when we talk about sports, there is a different kind of motivation behind it. It's similar, but at the end of the day, it's different. And so, when we talk about, like, let's say, for example, metal music, there are a lot of metal fans, hardcore elitist metal fans, that call out other people for being posers, for listening to a certain kind of band or not knowing another kind of band. And the intrinsic motivation behind this, or the intrinsic frame of the world behind this, is a sort of inability to accept frames of the world, views of the world that are different than one's own. And so, or inability to understand that someone does not know the same things as you do. And so, in regards to metal music, there is this type of persona who calls out other people for being posers because they don't know this type of band, or they only listen to deathcore. The typical example is people who say deathcore is not metal. Well, you could argue, but at the end of the day, it mostly is, right? So it's a kind of mix of metal, of hardcore, and whatever. Don't pin me down on the details. But what I have seen in this kind of regard is that in metal there is a certain subconscious battle of who knows metal better, who is more deep into the game, who is more deep into the rabbit hole, if you will. And a certain battle of what can be considered metal nowadays and what not. And of course, everyone has different topics on this, different opinions on this, right? In Hungarian, there's a saying, ízlés és pofon, which means taste and face slaps. And basically what it is trying to say is that everyone has a different taste, and if you get confronted with a weird taste, this can sometimes slap you in the face. Reality can hit you hard, that people have different music tastes. And so, some people are not able to accept this. So some kind of music nerds or whatever, some kind of metal nerds, they have to compensate thereby by calling out other people posers for liking a certain different genre or not liking some other type of subgenre. And at the end of the day, even the metal elitists hate each other because some say only Iron Maiden, Slayer, whatever is the real old school metal, and all of the death metal stuff is just yelling and whatever. And some say only deathcore and metalcore, etc., is not considered metal, but everything else is, which is real metal, is considered metal, whatever. And so there is a discrepancy and there is no uniform definition. So they can't even agree with each other. So, and then you have black metal, of course, which these are the types of people that mostly hate everything but black metal. And they call anyone a poser who doesn't know a certain black metal band or who just has one death metal song in their playlist because it's not black metal. So you see, there is a very different wide types of worldviews, and all these worldviews of these people have in common that each of these people cannot accept that other people have a different worldview than they have, and so they have to rationalize, they have to compensate this. There is a sort of cognitive dissonance going on. Enough about that. So let's talk about skating, because the intrinsic motivation there is different. Now, I can't analyze the intrinsic motivation of skaters who call out other people for being posers that much because I've never been a skater. I knew a couple of skaters and most of them are just arrogant little fucking dicks. And but some of them, of course, like I don't know, Tony Hawk or the like really professional skaters, the ones that have actual talent, right? They are mostly cool, like they just enjoy skating, right? And I think the skater or the sports types of call-outers who call out other people for being posers are much more annoying because it goes into your like motivation to do things. So when it comes to metal, you could get the feeling of not being accepted, which you therefore would handle. Everyone handles that differently. Whereas in sports, in skating, you would not only get the feeling of not being accepted, but also normally you could get a loss of motivation, unless you're a person who doesn't really give a shit. And so, but for many people, that could lead to being called a poser or whatever, could lead to a lack of motivation. And so, therefore, these kinds of people from the sports game, like skating or whatever, they are much more annoying and pathetic for calling out other people for being posers, because at the end of the day, what I believe is the intrinsic motivation is the following. So this is derived from the fact that I haven't heard anyone who is actually good at skating, inline skating, or whatever, calling someone a poser. No one. It's always the either really mediocre people or the ones below mediocre, the below average ones. And so, what's probably like the cause is that these people deep inside know that they are mediocre and will never get to a professional level, but they have enough performative skill, meaning that it's enough to convince the dumb Joe that they are skilled in something. So it's superficially impressive. So impressive for the people that are not in the game or don't know anything about it. So basically, dumb people would get impressed by it. And so, deep down, they know, so they have to compensate. One way they would compensate is that they call out other people posers. And my advice for these people is just let people enjoy things. And this is especially bad in the skating community because it has disastrous consequences. Like, in the skating community, it is common to call other people posers if you wear a helmet or stuff that protects your arms and knees and whatever. And many people simply fall for it and ride a skateboard without any helmet or whatever, basically risking a brain injury. Like Tony Hawk, from what I heard about interviews, never personally did this. He always wore a helmet, which at the heights he is jumping at is probably useless anyway. But the thing is, when practicing, he always wore a helmet, or also when competing, because he knows it's dangerous, and this is when you shouldn't give a fuck about some mediocre people calling you posers. Because at the end of the day, if you want to get better at something, you want to take more risks, and subconsciously you are much more willing to take more risks if you are fundamentally protected. And so this also limits a skater's potential of performing risky moves, or learning, increasing your, or steepening, like, fuck me, dude, I forgot how to speak English again. Speeding through the learning curve, that's what I wanted to say. Because essentially, you limit yourself by a subconscious knowledge, or subconscious fuck, you know what I mean. So you subconsciously know that something could happen, and therefore you decrease the risk taking a bit. Otherwise you would land like a ketchup on the table, right? And therefore there is no point in calling other people posers for wearing a helmet. It's stupid. And it's the reason why you, as a skater, if you call other people posers, are mediocre. Because you deep down don't want to be a poser. You're fucking afraid of being a poser. Oh no, what if people think I'm being a poser? Fuck shut the fuck up, you bitch. Just wear a goddamn helmet and increase your learning curve and get out of mediocrity if skating is really the thing you want to do. So at the end of the day, this is probably the reason behind it, right? So these people have fallen into the vicious circle of being afraid of being called posers, therefore not wearing a helmet, therefore being afraid of doing too risky stuff, and therefore being stuck in mediocrity. And the sports community, the skating community should do something about it, right? So there are risky things you can do. I wouldn't say you should necessarily risk your life, but at the end of the day, if there's something is risky, but in a way that it doesn't risk your life, but only in a way that you could basically splash your brain and you would have to go to the hospital for 3 months or something like that, I would say it is worse than doing something that is risky for your life. Therefore, why should you take any unnecessary risks just to protect your own ego if you know that basically all of the people in the scene who would attack your own ego are doing it because it's a vicious circle of being afraid of being attacked, of the ego getting attacked, and therefore staying mediocre all the way. So maybe if you are a skater listening to this, you should keep this in mind and think about it, maybe influence the community. Thank you for watching.